Hello, and welcome back to Talking Freight, the weekly freight series brought to you by Asus, a North American third-party logistics company who specializes in transportation management solutions through technology and different services. So, we're going to dovetail a little bit off of last week's episode where we talked about Asus Orioles and what they were and what were the most common and what you can do about them. So make sure you check out that episode by clicking here to the top of your screen. This week, we're going to continue that spirit of working with carriers and making sure you have accurate information in your shipping. We're going to give you the 5 top tips for working with LTL carriers and making sure that you have a good relationship with them, so in times of capacity crunches like we're expecting to see later this year and in the beginning and throughout 2018, you're a little bit more prepared to make sure your freight is a little more attractive. And therefore your freight is picked up and you can continue to work with carriers and get your freight to your customers as expected. So the first one we want to talk about is a big topic, and it's about reways. We've addressed this in many episodes because it really is that important. So why is it important? Well, in times of capacity crunch, or even in regular times, reways can happen up to 80% of the time on your shipments. One, it's because carriers want to make sure that the weight is accurate for their trucks and that they're properly maintained and that the trucks aren't overloaded. They can't be too heavy. But two, they want to make sure that they get what they're charging you for. That, in fact, it does weigh this much and we're charging the right amount. So when they reweigh, they're really checking your accuracy. And if you continue to be inaccurate, you're going to continue to have to deal with reweighs and the wasted time and the wasted energy that you're having with the carrier, as opposed to more of a positive and accurate weighing environment. So make sure your scales are calibrated and make sure you always put the most accurate weight so carriers kind of trust your freight and it's more attractive than some of the other offenders of reweighs out there. The second tip to look out for is to make sure you have an accurate bill of lading. Gone are the days where you could just fill it out haphazardly and a carrier would accept it. More carriers are doing audits on bills of lading. They're making sure that it has all of the right information, including pro numbers. So it's imperative that you have an accurate bill of lading. Take the time to create one that is got the origin, the destination, any special instructions, and the information the carrier is expecting to see, and that it's accurate. If you're having trouble doing this by hand or in some other template that you've put together in Word, really recommend that you shift over to a transportation management system that can aid you in creating and generating that accurate bill of lading. The third one is a lot to do with the material that we covered last week, and that's Asus Orioles. Now, weren't sure if you were aware of this, but in small package shipping or parcel, there are almost up to 45 different Asus Orioles, whereas LTL has around an average of 15. So if you can, in order to avoid Asus Orioles, which are extra fees and extra services that a carrier may not have the time and capacity crunch to deal with, therefore your freight gets bumped to the further back positions in the line of freight that they can pick up. But with Asus Orioles, it also can cost more, and if you're not explicit about them or specific enough, then the carrier may have to say, well, hey, we didn't expect this. It cost more time and manpower for us, and we're going to charge you for that. So you weren't really expecting to see that charge as well. So make sure you're upfront with Asus Orioles. Ship LTL if you can by combining several parcel or small package shipments together to go LTL. Therefore, you can decrease the amount of special services needed by the carrier, making your freight more attractive. The next one is make sure you are properly packaging all of your freight, that it's shrink wrapped really well. There's a couple of reasons that you want to do this. One, carriers don't want to have to repackage it themselves because they don't want to see pieces falling out. Again, this wastes their driver's time and it eats into their profit margins. They're not really going to appreciate that kind of freight. And then second, it just allows you to be proactive around freight claims. So when it comes to packaging, make sure that everything's secure and that you put it together. Now the last of our 5 tips is to make sure that you decrease the amount of units that the carrier will be handling. A carrier would rather take one pallet made up of 100 pieces than 100 separate pieces of parcel or small package shipping. So if you can, try to combine pieces into a couple of pallets. That way the carriers are a little more happy, there's less handling, there's less room for freight claims, there's less room for loss or damage. So make sure you put those together and the carrier will be much happier with your freight, making it more attractive and easy for them to pick up. So we hope you adhere to these 5 top tips to have better carrier relations in times of capacity when it comes to LTL shipping. Remember, we have had some lower capacity over the last few years due to some more stagnant economy numbers, but that could pick up at the end of this year, and it could get worse at the beginning of next year. So now is the time to make sure that you go back and make sure all of your coordinators and your entire organization are following these top 5 tips. We hope you enjoyed today's content. We really hope that you're enjoying the Talking Freight series. We love giving you educational material so you can take it back to your shipping department and optimize everything so you can reduce overall inefficiencies and reduce costs when it comes to shipping. Make sure if you don't want to miss a single episode that you hit the subscribe button. There's a little bell as well, that if you hit that, you'll get an email every time we publish a new episode of Talking Freight every Friday. And of course, make sure you follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, we're out there, even on Instagram. But our blog is award-winning and it's got a lot of information. So if you check out the description in this video, we'll give you a link to a longer form blog on this same subject. We hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.